Hello, everybody. My name is Eric McLeod,
And I'm Chris Holden.
and you are listening to LowBlowRadio podcast. This is the blow-by-blow of AEW Dynamite. It is July 22nd, 2020. Chris, geez, another big old episode of AEW Dynamite here.
Yeah, following on from the Fight from the Fallen, which followed on from the other double F alliterative one. It was just a regular Dynamite this week, but it was a good show. I thought it was a solid stack card. And
yeah, for sure.
Interest peaked early on over the weekend when I guess Tony Khan, it was Monday, Tony Khan tweeted out that we had a top-level independent world superstar going to be challenging for the TNT title against Cody this week. And then earlier today, that was announced that was going to open the show tonight. And so for me, at least, that had me all day kind of looking forward to the show tonight, waiting to see who it was going to be. And I was trying to pick names out of my head all day. I didn't get there, but it was the first name that you threw at me when I asked you for a prediction. So good for you, man.
It certainly was. Yes, I'll take that into my Nosferatu columns, or not Nosferatu, but my Rasputin columns. Yeah, Nostradamus, whatever it is. Columns there for my gimmick on correct predictions here. Did I also call the NXT one? Regal's his big announcement was just the NXT 30, right?
No, over on NXT, the big announcement from Regal was actually first Keith Lee announcing that he is relinquishing the North American title, which we kind of anticipated was going to happen. He says as much as he respects the belt and loves defending both, time for someone else to have a chance. So he's given up the North American title, which led to Regal's announcement over the next 3 weeks. We're going to have a couple of matches. It'll lead to a ladder. The winners of those will advance to a ladder match, where the winner of which will be our new North American champion.
At TakeOver 30, that's what I said.
Okay, all right. In a roundabout way, I get it. But
I was going to say, I wasn't predicting every matchup. I mean, like I said, I'm not booking their whole fucking card over here. Paul, you got to pay me for that shit. I'll just give you my predictions, which happen to be correct.
I would have accepted North American title relinquishment. That was my first pick today, and then as the day went on and I saw Regal's tweet saying, like, I've appreciated the last several years being the general manager, I thought it was him going to be moving on to Raw or SmackDown. I didn't think he was going to be leaving the company. I thought we need an authority figure on Raw and SmackDown. Things have been going crazy lately. Look at Extreme Rules. We're going to steal the GM that's been a great GM for the last few years down on NXT. That for me would have fit on a storyline and a narrative basis. So of course that's not something WWE's interested in. So, it was this instead, which is fine. It just makes no sense that he alluded to earlier that he was going to retire or something tonight, but whatever.
Well, because it teases fans like you and makes you think that kind of thing could happen, right? I mean, he knows that there's marks out there like you.
Yeah, he's right.
So,
he got me.
Don't always blame it on them. So anyway, let's get back to AEW blow by blow here. Sorry, that's what we were giving you here tonight, but we got a little sidetracked there. I was curious about that. But anyway, let's jump into this. Yes, it was Eddie Kingston who was debuting here in AEW. Cody was already in the ring, so again, they sort of built everything up to be all about who this challenger was going to be. No music, no anything else, just comes out straight on the mic. And what a way to introduce everybody to Eddie Kingston.
If you don't know Eddie Kingston, he's an 18-year veteran. Spent time in Combat Zone Wrestling. He was the CZW Heavyweight Champion once. He's been the IWA Mid-South Heavyweight Champion. He's been in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. He's appeared in Ring of Honor. He's been in NWA, TNA Impact Wrestling. He's a longtime veteran that hasn't spent any time in the quote-unquote major leagues, so to speak.
Yeah.
And if this is a landing spot for him, much like Ricky Starks, who is making appearances now on a regular basis and is a member of the roster, hopefully the same goes for Kingston, where this is just the beginning of his run with them. That promo when he came out, that was fire. Excellent promo to debut with.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're going to get introduced to Eddie, that's the best sort of way to start things off. Yeah, he's a phenomenal talent. Someone I saw wrestle a couple summers ago in Toronto. Just amazing guy on the microphone, as well as just working his particular sort of physical style. And yeah, the promo certainly led into what the match was going to be, talking a lot about his upbringing compared to Cody's and that kind of stuff, and sort of trying to ignite some anger in Cody to sort of drum out these stipulations here, because we did end up getting a no DQ match.
He set an intense tone for the match, and then the match itself set an intense tone for the rest of the night. I thought, at least for the first hour and a half of the show, it
Right.
felt action packed, and it felt violent, and it felt real. There's a real feel to me of Kevin Owens, or I should say Kevin Steen, that I get off of Kingston, where he's gritty and real, and it's not pro wrestling to him. He loves pro wrestling, obviously, but you know what I mean. It's that extra emphasis comes across with the character, and I really enjoy that in my wrestlers. So
for sure.
I got behind him right off the bat, and I thought it elevated Cody's game. It was a different Cody. I think you alluded to this last week. We see different shades of Cody depending on who he's up against. We saw different shades of Cody again tonight in this match.
Absolutely, yeah. It shows that there are some sort of, he doesn't just sort of wrestle black and white. There are some sort of like shades of gray to Cody, and it sort of, he will wrestle sort of what is catered to the match, and maybe that just comes from the studying that him and Arn do, where it's sort of beyond the sort of heel faceness of wrestling, where there's been such wrestling history now that you can, you start alluding to other matches, and you just sort of take what works and what doesn't. So having to deal with the aggressive side of Eddie Kingston in this, we got to see what Cody does in that sort of situation. So Eddie started things off hot, taking him right to the outside. Cody kind of did what he could with that big suicide dive and then the missile drop kick to kind of try and slow Eddie down a little bit, taking the belt off, really showing this was going to get into like a physical altercation. But Eddie just bringing it right back to him, taking him into the guardrail, taking the belt back and using it on him, which I think eventually led to the start of the knee spot, right?
Yeah, it was then on the outside. You got Eddie Kingston doing his best Peter Griffin impression for a few minutes on the ground, holding his knee with the sound effect. But it was great. He got it over what they were doing.
For sure. I think once it alluded to the entire match that was really going to be the bigger story part, it was good to sell it for that bit extended period of time to show it was a more serious injury and was going to play to his sort of downfall eventually in this match.
But what's with the eye bits this week? He must have tried to gouge his eye out 6 times. Like, come on now. I got enough of that on Sunday night.
Fair enough. I mean, they don't have to assume you're watching both shows. This is just them, right?
True. At least he didn't say, I'm going to get that eye, Cody.
Yeah. Well, he told Arn he was going to take his eyes out if he got any close, or he kept looking at him. So
started that at the start of the night.
Yeah. But I mean,
the ring full of the tack spot was golden, and that's how you do a tack spot in Impact Wrestling. If you were watching that from the Moose Tommy Dreamer match on Saturday, that was barbaric.
Oh,
what a power bomb. Jesus, Cody took that like a champ, and he's going to be picking those things out of his back until Sunday afternoon, I imagine.
Oh, geez. Yeah, no, that was fantastic. Yeah, these guys, they got real physical right before that. I mean, Eddie's kind of trying to hold the knee back, so they start doing the big palm strikes and stuff like that. He's taunting Arn Anderson because Cody's just sort of trying to find some sort of way to take advantage here. He does eventually go for the sort of knee chop once he sees that the knee's really hurting Kingston here, which leads to Kingston taking the low blow tactic, which, I mean, you got to mention here on Low Blow Radio, right? If it happens, we got to talk about it. But that led exactly to him getting outside, getting the thumbtacks, bringing them in, and you're just like, well, Eddie's either going to take a real big thumbtack spot here for his big night here in AEW, because, I mean, that's sort of what you're assumed to sort of
it's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, tend to happen in a hardcore match. You sort of set up your own downfall eventually. But no, led to that huge powerbomb that Cody just ate right into the thumbtacks. And looked brutal. Looked really put Cody over for taking something like that too.
Well, the trust Cody's got in his performers, essentially his performers, right? It's his company. So it's like Vince McMahon taking bumps.
Yeah.
Like it is the rule of thumb. You set up spots for yourself, mostly because you want to ensure that what you've set up, you're taking it safely and properly, and you set it up right. So when you let somebody else set up the thing that you're going to take, that's trust. So
absolutely, yeah. So a lot of trust for a veteran like that with Eddie Kingston, and Eddie certainly not quite able to take advantage of the powerbomb and stuff like that. The knee's still hurting him quite a bit, and then Cody getting a big adrenaline spike from the pain kind of thing was the story here, where he sort of charged right up afterwards, going straight after Cody or after Eddie, and went straight for the figure 4 because he knew that was going to be his only out to win this match, forcing the tap. Yeah, solid 12-minute opener. This was different style. We were getting kind of the same thing from Cody a little bit here, and a neat sort of different way to get a different kind of match, not to just put a stipulation on it for no reason. You kind of not expect this from Eddie, but it's easy for him to instigate that out of people if that's the way they're going to tell it story-wise, that kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, I think a real fun way to get Eddie Kingston sort of debuting here in AEW.
Definitely. It wasn't the technical masterclass that we've been coming to see from Cody, which he's been getting a lot of slack from people, giving himself 18 to 20-minute matches to open shows off.
Yeah.
Myself, I enjoy it. I like Cody Rhodes. I think he's a great wrestler.
Yeah, me too.
I don't understand some of the complaints of nepotism. I mean, I guess I get it from some. I think some of it is just sour grapes.
For sure. I mean, it's.
But yeah, I did like seeing
everybody, but
yeah, well, of course. But I did like seeing a totally different Cody tonight than what we've seen in the last few weeks. Different challenger than what we've seen in the last few weeks.
Yeah,
and a different match. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was again with the way that the knee injury came over, and the way commentary again did the work selling that and telling the story of it. It doesn't leave Eddie looking necessarily weak in his debut at all. Sure, he took the loss, but he put up an awesome challenge, one of the better challenges for the TNT title we've seen since Cody won it.
Yeah,
and it was his knee. If he hadn't have gotten the knee buckled on the outside of the ring, he wouldn't have been in the spot to take that figure 4. So again, it wasn't if Cody didn't finish him. He didn't close him off with crossroads or
yeah, that's right.
Whatever, one of his best, right? It was the figure 4 because his knee had been damaged.
Yeah, for sure. There's potential for a rematch down the road if Eddie decides to stick around, or they decide to keep Eddie here in AEW, and further stories that could be told between these two. And yeah, just something different from Cody. I don't necessarily feel the sort of, so people are just sort of feeling the same thing from these Cody matches, but I'm fine with that if it seems like that's the story we're telling, him to sort of testing the waters with these different sort of people and then opening these open challenges and then maybe eventually just getting caught. Like, I think eventually they're just going to have somebody debut in that spot that's just going to be a huge shock to Cody and a huge shock to the audience, and someone that just takes the belt off him, so that they've been building it so much that you're catered to be, okay, who's Cody beating this week? Who's Cody beating this week? Sure. So that when it happens, it feels like so much more of a big shock.
And I don't necessarily think it needs to be a debut at that point for the same exact storyline.
Yeah.
Now Darby Allin steps into that in a few weeks, right? He comes out of this thing with Cage looking great. That's a real believable scenario.
For sure, and something else to move on to.
So sure, there's just like you say, myriad names in how it could be, but they set it up nicely that at any time, you could conceivably see Cody drop that belt because he's gotten overconfident in the role and with his role. So
that's right. And hey, speaking of champions, we got a little promo from Jon Moxley here, sort of talking about the title defense against Cage last week, putting Cage over for the most part, I guess, him and Taz, for how tough he was in the match, saying that Taz did make the right call by throwing in the towel, and if he hadn't, he certainly wasn't going to let go, and he won't the next time either. So yeah, a strong looking champion here. Not a decisive sort of like avenue for his next challenge, but again, just sort of putting over what happened last time with a tough sort of challenge from Cage, and how tough that fight really was.
Yeah, I guess this is the best thing you can get out of him. It's not up to the challenger or the champion, to seek out a next challenger.
Yeah.
So what else is he supposed to say? Keeps him on the show, keeps him relevant, keeps him doing something. All he can really do is address last week. You knew Taz was going to later on when him and Cage came out.
For sure.
So, it was fine. It's a serviceable promo. I mean, I guess I'm just stuck in this thing of I want to see more of Jon Moxley and more out of the character of Jon Moxley. And right. I'm feeling like we're seeing tendencies of it, but you get more full bear. Again, this comes from Chase versus once you've got something. If he were chasing the champion and the championship, would probably be getting more of that character build since he's the one in the driver's seat. It's difficult to play from that angle.
For sure. He was a lot more hungry as the challenger than as the champion. And he's just sort of waiting for the next sort of challenge to come up on his plate, right? Or the reason to get excited for something, right? And it didn't come till later in the night here. So I guess it just sort of depends what sort of is pushing Moxley's buttons on the day. So yeah, I get what you mean too. There's a bit of fatigue not seeing him on the show as much, but I think it allows time for other stuff to breathe, and then hopefully when they, because I'd rather that than to just seem like you just see him and nothing happens. If they don't have a challenge and a story ready, then he's fine in promos like this, which seems like it's the case, and they can focus on other stuff. So I'm
and
okay
I'd
with
rather
that.
not see him in generic matches and oversaturate the champion in the ring in non-title bouts or even in title bouts. So
Totally makes each one feel far more important. Speaking of great and important matches, we got the amazing heel from AEW returning, our Lord and Savior MJF, taking on Griff Garrison in a fun little singles match here.
Yeah, an awesome opening promo to start the whole segment off. He just reminiscent of The Rock.
Yeah.
The way he talks is just, it's brilliant.
It's getting better and better every week. Yeah, you don't want to have a match with MJF where you don't put him on the mic. And a fun way to sort of start it off, the running sort of gag with Griff Garrison is about how much he looks like Jungle Boy, of course. And they talked about that even on being the Elite this week. It's come up a little bit on commentary because you catch him with the curly hair and stuff like that. And him calling him Jungle Man and stuff like that. Fun little spot for Griff Garrison here to get over as well. The same like they use some of the other enhancement guys, and if that's the sort of thing that people can focus on to help him maybe develop a character down the road, it works the same sort of as Pineapple Pete and some of the other guys that have been able to elevate themselves off this enhancement formula that they have.
There has to be room on the card for every level, and that's going from main event down to openers. You got to have jabronis. You need jobbers, right? And enhancements guys. So yeah, he's a young kid. This isn't hurting the career or anything like that. This isn't.
And I'm just glad they're becoming familiar faces now too. Like they're enhancement, but they're becoming more and more memorable. Not just that
and
guy.
Eventually, exactly. One day it'll lead to that Barry Horowitz style story, right? Like
for sure.
So yeah, I love the bit after the break. We got off on the wrong foot, Griff, when he grabbed the mic back into the ring. Like so many good bits in this match where he just spots, like the heelish movements and play, and then even that whole spot where he had the mic and he stomped his fingers trying to force him to say, "You are undefeated."
Yeah, it was definitely, you saw it was a sort of the more offense Griff could kind of get, the more angry MJF would get with him, and the more frustrated he would get with the fact that, no, I am undefeated, and there's no way I'm going to get, let an enhancement guy like you get any offense in on me. Yeah, taunting him with the arm drags and stuff like that, the biting the fingers, tearing his hands away from the submission spots. Yeah, a lot of really fun, nasty heel tactics from MJF here. And then, fun to work the mic back into it here. Griff did what he could to sort of fight it off, and then MJF just kept getting more and more frustrated with him and really laid it in until eventually Griff was willing to admit that, yes, MJF is undefeated here in AEW, but that was MJF sort of lost sight of the match a little bit there, almost got caught up in a near fall for Griff, and that was definitely the end of this match for MJF. He was fed up with Griff Garrison at this point.
Yeah, he had enough after that.
Yeah, it took him to the apron, a real nasty heat seeker, and got the 1-2-3 in a quick little 6-minute, nice enhancement match for MJF, getting him some wins, getting him on TV. Fantastic to see him back here.
Watching his anger and, again, the intensity level build through the match as the frustration rose and he got a bit more angry. I thought it was a great performance by him, and it kept the show rolling along in the right tone. Speaking of rolling along.
Oh, yes, we had our role model having a nice interview with her best friend, Tony Schiavone, and Rebel
such an asshole, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, just this whole thing was another just roll of fantastic stuff coming off Britt Baker. The comparisons to Michael Jordan, her saying that it was like him returning to the Wizards, Schiavone giving her a hard time about the Wizards not making the playoffs, Rebel saying that she loves them in Space Jam and they beat the Monstars every time. I mean, just zinger after zinger here from the role model and her crew.
I love that she tells them to suck in their gut. And you see as the camera pays in on her, Schiavone is sucking in his belly and trying to do up the front of his jacket. What she told him is so good.
Yeah,
Schiavone's hysterical.
She's got such control over him. It's fantastic. So, no,
Does she back it all out?
I would imagine that's what the tease was, right? Yeah. She'd been saying that before. It seemed like September was the date that they seemed was going to be the time that her knee was going to be like in-ring ready, that kind of thing. And that's September seems to be our usual time for All Out. And she had the great sort of little promo ending teasing that where she said, "Don't count me out for All Out." So I would imagine that's what they're building her and Big Swole, and they did what they could to keep Big Swole off TV, or like in story wise at least, to again, not oversaturate with her. And it seems like they're moving a different direction with a lot of the women right now too, to sort of fill that void while some of their bigger talent aren't around. So yeah, but we'll get to that later on. But it should be interesting over the next few weeks.
Then we got Taz and the FTW champ Brian Cage out to talk about their difficult week. They've had some heated moments. There were points when Cage thought about firing Taz for throwing in the towel last week, but cooler heads prevailed. Brian Cage will never be in that position again, says Taz. I took that as the main point here and of the story going forward, that
Right.
this means, yeah, he took that loss last week, but we're going to see a man now who, anytime he's put in a submission hold, is able to fight his way out of it or power his way through or knows the reversal now, because that's going to be the key thing they work on going forward. What did you take from the promo?
I think that for sure, or just the maybe the not insurance policy of Ricky Starks, but just the numbers game kind of adding to their sort of
by the end of
there.
It.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you had they teased it a little early right before the two of them had walked out that it was on Dark last night that Ricky Starks had helped Cage beat down Darby Allin already. So there was enough sort of like seeds of this building with Ricky sort of being the third man for this crew right now. So yeah, it wasn't sort of out of the blue to have him sort of show up by the end of this. So that's how, again, I could see it for sure in that sense, that Cage is taking a different approach to his matches, not wanting to get caught in submissions, that kind of thing, because he realizes they put over the submission was properly locked in, and that was why it was justifiable to throw in the towel. But yeah, I think, other than working on stuff like that, adding another sort of sneaky person to the team like Ricky Starks is maybe Taz's sort of game plan to help Cage get more of a win streak here in AEW.
Darby Allin came out with his skateboard, and that's what prompted Starks to suddenly attack from the side. A real blindside. It was a great shot too.
Yeah, they caught a real good camera angle of that. The nasty powerbomb on the apron back into the ring, and then eventually having to be saved by Jon Moxley with a barbed wire bat. So pardon me, all this sort of setting up their match for next week, it seems, and just sort of keeping all these guys in the mix. This sort of feud between Darby and Cage is sort of building, but you don't necessarily want to jump right to it. So again, to keep Moxley in the mix there, as well as adding a third person and a sort of a tag partner for Cage, it opens Cage up to now also competing in the tag division. So that's fantastic too. So
yeah, for sure. We got another promo bit. Inner Circle met up with them in the back. Jericho talking about Marcus Stunt's bulbous head and the damage done to his $7,000 jacket, which now stinks of orange juice and is stained orange.
Did you miss the women's tag team tournament promo they had before that?
Oh, I must have. I didn't write it down.
Okay. I'm going to say it seemed pretty big news-ish wise, so you might want to tack on that earlier too. But we'll finish the Jericho thing first. Yeah, this was furthering the sort of main event that we're getting. Jericho sort of selling the jacket was interesting. To me, it reminded me a little.
Couldn't sell that jacket if he tried now.
Well, fair enough. I think he'd be fine, because to me it reminds me a lot of the when John Moxley was Dean Ambrose and destroyed his light up jacket. So you owe me $5,000, Dean Ambrose, or however much money it was, like $50,000, Dean Ambrose, and you smashed my potted plant and all this kind of stuff. However that escalated. So to me, there's maybe a few too many similarities there. I mean, there's always going to be some sort of stuff, but I prefer a sort of new take from Jericho rather than him sort of plucking from his past.
It's true, but when you're right, is when you've been around as long as Jericho, it's going to become real difficult to pick up some new acts now, right?
For sure. Even done
everything now. So
yeah, at first I had a terrible taste for the second incarnation of the list, but in the end it was fantastic. So you never know what could happen with Jericho, but this sort of promoting their match for the main event and that kind of thing. And I alluded to it earlier. They did have a little promo for what they're doing over the next few weeks, which is the women's tag team tournament, the Deadly Draw. So it's going to be 16 women, 8 teams. They're just going to, not randomly, but their women are going to start pairing up and that kind of deal. They didn't allude to too much more other than that. I would assume it's just sort of for a trophy or some sort of bragging rights thing. I would hope it's not to develop belts and that in that kind of sense. I would rather it just be a tournament type thing, just a different way to showcase more women on the card. Again, if we could only get 2 or 4 women on here each week. If this is a way to get 8 women on each week, I'm more than happy with that. And to elevate their women's division that's sort of taking a step back with some of their bigger talent being not on TV.
Yeah, totally agreed. I think it's a good highlight spot. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think it'll eventually elevate storylines, hopefully for people you would imagine, stuff like Allie and Brandy and things like that. So
I'm assuming it's for Allie and Brandy to win at the moment. There aren't many other female tags I can think of.
Yeah, for them to eventually feud or something.
If Vicky ends up pulling another woman in to tag up with
Nia.
Help me with Nia, yeah. Or Nyla.
Nyla, sorry, yes.
Nyla Rose. That was where I nearly went with it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think there could be some interesting tag teams that come out of it. So Kenny obviously knows how to book a good tag team match, being the tag team champions right now. And he has been alluded to as one of the more head bookers for the women's division. So again, just a new way to showcase them and that kind of thing. I think it'll be a good way and just get more eyes on some different females here in AEW. So yeah, excited to see what happens with that. But yes, we had the promo, and then we led into the Falls Count Anywheres match, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, speaking of tag in division, the Young Bucks took on Butcher and the Blade in backstage brawl-esque Falls Count Anywhere match. I thought it was a lot of fun. I mean, it's a lot of the choreographed spots that you come to expect from a Bucks match. As long as they pull them off fluently and they look good and they look like they're having fun with it, I have fun watching it.
Yeah, so, me too.
I guess I don't know how else to say it. Like, I mean, even running into I don't want to fast forward through the whole bout, but get like up to and including the finishing spot.
Right.
Yeah, it's choreographed. Yeah, it's over the top in that way. But it's sports entertainment wrestling that isn't stupid. It's borderline silly.
Yeah.
If you really want to. But I mean, even that was well worked to get to it. It's fun to watch. I don't find it. I enjoy watching it more than I find it outlandish and it takes away from entertainment. That's for sure.
Yeah, like the biggest things that I took away from this was it reminded me of the hardcore matches we would get from like the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys. Like that was totally what this looked like, but it was the Young Bucks working their style of match, with the Butcher and the Blade working their style of match. But you totally would have got a big backstage brawl that eventually led to the ring, or a big stage spot from Jeff Hardy and the tables, or I mean, Devon get the tables. Like, who's waiting for someone to do all this stuff, right? Or the jokey spots that they would do, that kind of thing. So there was definitely some similarities that I felt here in this. But again, if you're having fun and that kind of stuff, you can, I don't think it's killing the business to enjoy a big story like that. I like kicking off too, not necessarily in the ring too, with the backstage one going straight to the outside. They're still struggling with exactly what the Butcher and the Blade are. Right now, they are actually butchers in the butcher shop while they find them in the kitchen as we kick off.
Well, I mean, he does wear an apron. I mean, I don't know why.
Well, he does in this situation, he does.
I thought Butcher always had an apron on. Just some weeks it was white as well, so it kind of clashed in with the rest of the white he was wearing. But anyway, I mean,
I don't think so. Yeah, but then it's like completely clashing to their in-ring like entrance gear and stuff like that. I really enjoyed this team, but I think they're struggling. Pardon me.
I never got the monocle. Like the monocle never made a lot of sense. That looked more like an expedition or some great rhino hunter thing.
Oh, right. I felt like he was trying to be like, what's that, Gangs of New York? Like, I think that's the sort of look that he's sort of more going for.
I never saw it.
Oh, fair enough. Well, to each his own. That's not what we're here to discuss. I enjoyed the spots here going on the big spots on the kitchen tables. Matt Jackson slapping the guys with steaks was pretty funny as well. But yeah, some pretty heavy-duty spots here in the kitchen leading out into the more open, the Congress area that they have at Daily Place.
Yeah, I can't remember which Jackson it was that hit the knee in the face into the pan on the sitting at the table. But I think that.
Matt was holding it. Nick usually does the big running knee. Yeah, no, they did some fun pan spots early on. Before Matt had got thrown into the back of the truck. It was a lot of sort of back and forth. No one really had momentum for too often. The sort of Butcher and the Blade would take a little bit, and then the Bucks would take a little bit. The opening up the truck doors to reveal Nick Jackson while they throw Nick Jackson into it was fun. which then led to a big splash from Matt Hardy, or not Matt Jackson. Sorry, I'm going a little too much on the Hardy track here, but
it's easy to see why this was reminiscent of those old school hardcore matches.
For sure.
Because it was that kind of style. It was, and again, there was some real intensity to it as well for Butcher and Blade. I really kind of like those guys. Still Blade a bit more than Butcher, but
fair enough.
I don't have anything wrong with that team. I think they're a good team to have around to beat up every week with somebody.
Yeah, no, I mean they're slowly getting their characters down, and they're getting over here some aggressive spots from them as well, like working out in the concourse area there. That wasn't necessarily when Butcher had. No, yeah, the Bucks had sort of taken over in that area, again, the sort of end spot going into commercial break where they put Blade up onto the escalator, which coming back from commercial break, we were all sort of back in the ring area, which, led to starting to bring out tables and a whole other plethora of weaponry and things like that to play with.
There was an awesome sunset flip cutter by Matt on the Blade on the outside around the entrance, on the ring apron.
Yes.
That was awesome. And the Butcher reversing both of the Bucks in the ring from what looked like they were setting up for double team stuff.
Yeah.
And then instead he reversed it into a double DDT thing. And I was surprised at that because I thought he was going to get ragdolled for a while.
Yeah, it looked like they were going to, they seemed to have returned to the ring with just him. They set up the tables. They seemed to going to double suplex him into it, but he seemed to reverse himself out of that as Blade came back with the steel chair.
Blade tried to throw himself over the ropes and through that one table, and he missed it with everything except his jaw.
Yeah.
And it looked like he just caught it, and I was surprised to see him back in the match as fast because I thought he'd knocked himself out, or at least a couple of times.
For sure. That one seemed like just slightly mistimed, but then good timing from Butcher right after that, hitting that huge splash into Matt into that one that was leaning on the ring barriers and that kind of stuff. So getting some big high spots from them there, but then certainly seemed like the Bucks were ready to take over at this point. Well, no, they hit the powerbomb neckbreaker combo out on the outside, but then by that point the Bucks were ready to sort of take over. They bring more tables out. Oh no, that was Butcher and the Blade. This hardcore matches are hard to keep track sometimes. But Butcher and the Blade bring the tables out, and then that was the sort of super kick party that started to put them away.
Yeah, Nick did the powerbomb on the neck breaker, and he stole Butcher's table, and Matt stole Blade's table. And then they did the BTE trigger on Blade. He laid on his table. Super kick party on the Butcher. He landed on his table.
Yeah.
They climbed the Jumbotron stage scaffolding area, and a countdown from 3, and they leapt.
Yes, we had a senton and an elbow drop, which led to the joint counted 1, 2, 3 for the finish, for the win for the Young Bucks here. Yeah, big, crazy spot fest match, but like we were alluding to earlier on, it was just sort of a lot of fun, and they booked it well enough that nothing felt sort of out of place or anything like that, and they don't do it every week like this either, so sort of a different way to see these guys, not having to rely just on a traditional tag match as well. You can have a lot of fun stuff, and with the no arena or no fans kind of thing, take advantage of the space. They utilize that well and don't sort of overplay it too much. That's why I got a lot of fun out of this, I think.
It was really different to see that kind of match, and especially that kind of finish with such a high spot on weekly TV. That wasn't a pay-per-view tonight. That wasn't a pay-per-view match or build. That's just a solid rivalry in their tag division. Yeah. And so I thought, on that end of it, because of that as well, up the quality of the match that little bit more for me. So I loved it. I thought it was great match. For sure. Fun to see what's next for the Young Bucks. I really enjoyed that BTE trigger too. I hope we get to see more of that. Stretching the guy's arms out for that knee just looks so devastating. So next we got a quick little promo from not a promo, but an interview. Alex Marvez trying to talk to Jake Roberts and Lance Archer. Curious why they weren't on Fight for the Fallen or Fighter Fest or anything over the last 2 weeks. And I really enjoyed this. Jake Roberts just trying to explain what's going on to Alex Marvez as Lance Archer just demolishes 3 jobbers in the back room. It was great. Particularly the part where he picked the one guy up and just put him through the ceiling. They wish they'd had drywall there so the guy could have held on to something and stayed out. Yeah. He just picked him up like a dart and up into the roof. You're a
Yeah.
nail. You hold
Yeah, you
that.
hope he was like, "I'll get you a beer after this one, bud. Sorry."
That's great.
Gonna really ream me into the roof here. No,
Yeah.
Lance just looking like a beast. Then Jake just telling you, I mean, he's a caged animal. He's ready to get in there, and they got leaving him back here. It's wasted talent and all this stuff. So I enjoyed this sort of another way to sort of talk about Archer, not just have him sort of being wasted in matches that don't make sense, that kind of thing. Save him for when you're ready and just put him over in these sort of demolishing promos. So
Which I agree with you on that. I prefer this versus not seeing him at all or anything like that. Having said that, I would rather see him in the ring demoing guys. I'd like to see him in a story.
Yeah.
Let's get him going. Let's get something cooking. I know you only get another hour of TV if that's what you need. Come on, guys.
For sure. They're getting there. They're getting there eventually. Guys. Like, slow your horse.
No, I want it now.
I'm fine with the tease. I enjoy that they take every week to get everybody built up, but I understand that too. It'd be fun to have 2 shows and I wouldn't have to watch anything else. So
killing me, man. This is the problem. Like, I'm the hype monkey. I'm the guy I need. Like, feed me more hype. Feed me more guys. Give me more stuff to So
I know, but isn't that what ruins WWE when it's just the constant? And then we talk about how great the long story builds are in AEW, right? So I mean, do you enjoy that they give them a chance?
I'm your stereotypical never satisfied fan where it could always be better no matter what one I'm getting. So, yeah.
Well, let's get your unsatisfied potential opinion on this next match. We had Diamante taking on Ivelisse.
She was on Diamante was on Dark last night, right? Which you reviewed on a bonus podcast edition.
Yes, if anyone ever wants to check that out here on our podcast feed or also on our YouTube page, I do try to do Dark reviews. Yes, she was there this week. She was also on last week's show. So someone who's definitely been featured.
How is she over on Dark from someone that's been watching that show?
To me, like, it was when I first saw her, the first thing I thought was this girl wants to be Ivelisse because I was familiar with Ivelisse from Lucha Underground, AAA, and stuff like that. And you could tell there's definitely an impression there, both Puerto Rican and those type of things. But a real sort of rough tumble style. Had some good matches on Dark. I believe one of the first ones, I can't remember what the first one was, but yeah, the last one she had against Kyron King was a good back and forth, especially against a bigger opponent. So I was excited to see what it brought to this Ivelisse match. I instantly was going to have a different take on this after they announced the women tag team thing, because going into this, before that was announced, I was like, I really hope this is just a nice elevation point for Ivelisse. If they got to bring a semi-credible opponent in that has like 1 or 2 wins on Dark up to the main roster for her to get a showcase sort of win, a nice sort of place for Ivelisse to really start being more so than just the last time she was just in the women's sort of battle royal thing. It was really quick and not well utilized. So if they were going to actually use her here, I was happy to see that. But as soon as they announced the tag team thing, I was like, oh, this match is going to be setting up Diamante to get a win so that the 2 of them will tag together. And that basically was what this eventually was. You got sort of Eva taunting Diamante about sort of all these, you want to be Ivelisse and all that kind of stuff, because she sort of got the more veteran status in this match and was using her experience to sort of get a rise out of Diamante for sure. They had quite a lot of slaps between each other, a few kicks and those kind of things, leading to some near falls from Diamante or Ivelisse on Diamante, but just not quite able to put her away. And then that was sort of the story of the match. Ivelisse is getting a little too overconfident and then eventually getting caught with the roll-up from Diamante.
Best finishing move in wrestler.
It seems to be. And
in wrestling.
If it's not overutilized in a nice sort of surprise way like this, where, again, if she didn't lose to something specific, she could maybe earn some respect for her and want to tag with her in the tournament, or be bitter rivals. It could go either way. But I certainly seem like it was maybe leaning towards these 2 as the veteran and the young person eventually teaming together for that women's tag team tournament that's coming up.
Sure makes sense now that I know about the tag team tournament. That, yeah, for sure. These 2 get together in the I respect you now and I'll mentor you for a while role.
For
and
sure.
Then down the road at some point, one of them stabs the other one in the back and you get the intense rivalry then.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And if that's the long-term story we're telling a little bit, and then if short-term they just needed a new sort of person for Hikaru Shida. She was on the show a couple weeks ago saying,
Yeah.
hey, like when women want to start stepping up, I'm here. Like, let's get some new people like bringing in the challenge. And they get Diamante 2 big wins here, 3 actually in a row. She's like 3-1 or whatever in AEW. So ready to get her a match against Hikaru Shida next week. So a nice way to set her up in the short term. Don't expect her to win over Hikaru, obviously. But again, maybe ignite a little bit of a feud there, and then maybe a team with Eva Lise down the road. So
down the road, some long-term booking. We can have it wrapped up by the end of August. That would be great. Moving on to match number 5. We had in match number 5 taking on Hangman Adam Page, the former Allen Angels, against the current one half of the World Tag Team Champions. I love the name tag at the bottom of the screen for Hangman as he's coming down to the ring as well. Gonna see how these white wrist tapes work out. Hangman Adam Page and then his record underneath. It was great.
That's all I missed that part. I'm always trying to like write while I'm watching, so sometimes you miss a little bit each time. So I certainly missed that. But yeah, I always like Hangman's little jokes. I like for ever long he was just like Hangman Page on his like Twitter for so long, just waiting until people noticed. Like he's always one to just rib a little bit here. No, I think we got a nice solid match from Allen Angels. He's one of those enhancement guys that's definitely stepped up from the sort of quarantine times early on in the pre-tape times that they had with AEW, leading to eventually becoming a Dark Order member, and then now getting some wins. He had his first win when he was teamed with I can't remember where the first one came from, but he did just win on Dark like 2 weeks ago, which was sort of a step up for him and Silver and Reynolds to get their first sort of wins in AEW. And sort of definitely a hot hand they have here that works really well with Hangman Page's sort of opposite styles. Hangman really trying to work a much stronger style to wear down the fast-paced Allen Angels.
Yeah, and that's how they worked it, right? Back and forth. Again, the intensity in this match from Hangman especially really so great. Like, you get these little spots from 5 as he's making little kicks, moves, and saying, combos together, and he gets a sequence of stuff in, and then Hangman just brutalizes with either one kick or a punch or a lariat or the chops back and forth. I love that little chop spot. Like, what the hell was that supposed to be? Here's a chop. Bam! Fantastic.
Yeah, classic sort of Japanese opening with the back and forth chops, which then led to the traditional American leapfrog trip back and forth, which Hangman just had enough of and planted him with the big boot. And just like you said, it was he would be willing to play the game with Allen for a little bit, but then once he saw an opening, he was just going to put this kid away each time. So if it wasn't a big boot, it was a big lariat, it was a big clothesline, a strike in some way. So yeah, just the strong arm of Hangman Page being the deciding factor in a lot of the exchanges between these two. Allen did eventually get the advantage a little bit when the Dark Order came out as a bit of a distraction. Evil Uno and Grayson with Reynolds and Silver on the apron, just as a sort of menacing evil group up there, taunting Hangman a little bit, distracting him to allow Allen to get or 5 to get a bit of a advantage there. But yeah, Hangman didn't give it to him for too long. Most
of his comeback was through the split screen break.
Yes. Yeah, he worked him a fair bit during the picture in picture to eventually come back for Hangman to just be laying into him. A big surprise sort of powerbomb finisher kind of out of nowhere from Hangman. I don't know if I've seen him finish with that specifically before. It's usually the buckshot or the lariat or that kind of stuff.
It was a jackknife powerbomb style as well. He raised him up as he brought him down. No, it looked great. And again, that can be down to size of opponent. You got someone the opportunity to do it to, you're going to take the chance.
True.
Let's see with Marco. See what he does, what he opts to do if he gets to fight Marco. I wrote down my immediate thing was, is it going to be FTR or the Elite that make it down first for the save? Because that to me was the story all day, wondering, of course, Dark Order is going to come in and do something.
Right.
But we had Mr. Brody Lee coming into the ring first, and he had a dark offer for Hangman.
Yes.
Not necessarily join the cult, but, we'll be your friend. We'll never leave you alone. We'll never let you be alone in a bar. We'll never let you be alone with a threat like you're facing right now. Which, again, Brody's so good at that stuff. I love his delivery on things.
Oh, it's perfect. And the sort of reluctant Colt that he was like bringing along too. That's like he's there with everybody, but still very unsure. And again, it's just everyone has a little bit of layers here while they're trying to do something else. There's something else that's happening in the background or whenever they want to choose to ignite these certain things. So, yeah.
To further that along, as Hangman turns him down and Brody tells him you've made a big mistake and leaves the ring and leaves the area, it's Cabana that he takes away with him to make sure like you don't need to be a part of this. Yeah. You're this grunt work that I make the rest of the boys do. You come with me.
That's right.
So I love it. I absolutely fucking love, because there's going to be the moment where Brody's in danger and Colt's got to make that decision, and he does it, and he's going to go full Dark Order.
Yeah.
Going to be heartbreaking because I love Colt and he's one of my best friends on Twitter because he liked one of my tweets once. So, but at the same time, I understand it. So then
we'll see you on here with your fist up and your mask. Then as soon as Colt has joined the Dark Order, Chris will as well.
So inevitably, the Dark Order, the rest of the guys that he left behind attacked.
Yeah,
and it was indeed FTR that made it to the ring first for the save of their drinking buddy, Hangman Page, beating Kenny Omega to the party to save his own tag team partner.
Mm-hmm.
Slack, no?
Maybe, or does Kenny just not give a shit? It's hard to say.
Either way, that's not right.
Well, we'll have to wait and see how Kenny feels about it. But no, I think, again, just sort of lengthening the story here, seeing what's going on, the sort of stretch between the two of them, the companionship between FTR and Hangman is a lot of fun. We got a tease of it on Being the Elite this week as well, and being like, well, they're just, we're Carolina boys. We get along in that sense. So again, if he's just sort of seeing a different side of them that Kenny doesn't see, and curious to see where the angle eventually collides to. But you can definitely see it's all just sort of building to something here. It's not just going to be let go. No, I enjoyed the spot with the cooler and get the Dark Order out of there. And again, if we're not ready to jump the gun with the FTR thing yet, Dark Order are right there. They kept mentioning their top ranked in the AEW tag team division. So they're just ready for that opportunity whenever it comes. So if this sort of ignites that in the meantime, eventually before All Out or whatever, where we get FTR maybe going for the belts or something like that, who knows? But I think there's stories to be told, but again, they don't have to happen next week, kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I'll be wearing my Dark Order mask soon, and you'll have your cleaner mop, I guess.
That's right. And I guess I'm gonna say I already mentioned it, and I forgot all about it. But Kenny Omega and Hangman officially taking on the Dark Order for the belts next week. They announced that, and then Hikaru Shida taking on Diamante, Darby Allin teaming with Moxley to take on Cage and Stark. Cody doing another open challenge, and then another match, which we will get to right now, that got set up.
Well, do you see, just a quick question, though, on next week's one there, can you see a world where the belts change hands next week to the Dark Order? So you open up this tapestry of stories with FTR, the Bucks, the Elite, all of that stuff starts going now without titles involved. Is it easier for them to tell more stories and more intertwining shit with those guys without the belts in there? So therefore, get the belts over to these guys, or are the stories enhanced because of the situation you've got where it's Hangman is a champion? That's part of what drives this all right now, right?
Well, it seems like that's what they like. I mean, if the story is that FTR just don't like Kenny, but it seems like they want the belts, right? Like they're trying to manipulate or do something. Like if you're looking from the outside perspective, you've just seen these guys show up. They're getting along with one guy. They're not getting along with the other guy. They're trying to drive a wedge between the champions because they want those belts. They don't want the champions on the same page.
I don't think they've been driving the wedge. I think it's just Kenny's overreaction and then bad reaction and bad reaction.
Well, I mean, that's two ways to take in a story, I guess. But that's the story I believe that they're setting up. But who knows? Again, you got to have two sides to a story or things feel too flat, right? It's easier or it's more fun that way. If you have people who are like, well, no, I think it's justifiable for this side, but I think it's justifiable in this way. So it's
what's making it so much fun to watch every week.
But I think the belts, I think it's the belts that are what make that the most important, not
okay.
Personally.
No, I honestly, it's a question because I could see it going either way. I'm not sure which way I would lean off the top. I'd have to.
I think it would definitely help the Dark Order, like to get a big win like that. for sure. But I do believe the story and that kind of thing is that the titles play a factor for sure. It's not just about breaking up friendships and screwing with the other tag teams, because that you think that they'd be trying to do that with more people, then being like, is there a difference between private party guys? Is there a difference between, Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy that we can drive a wedge? But no, it seems like they want to do it for the champs because it's shown that there's a weakness there. Mm-hmm. But yes, another fantastic tag match to end the night. And while we were talking about Jurassic Express there, that I mentioned them, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus taking on Hager and Jericho from the Inner Circle in our main event.
The Demo God.
The Demo God.
With Santana and Ortiz of the Inner Circle, and Marco Stunt helping out the other guys.
Yeah.
And this is revenge because they thought the OJ spot was funny last week. And Jericho didn't think it was funny and didn't like that they laughed at him about it.
Yep.
So,
hey,
that's fine. I thought it was a slow start to it with Jericho and Jungle Boy, and maybe that is what dragged me down a bit. I thought the match didn't even begin until we got the first spot with Hager and Luchasaurus up in there against each other, and they immediately went to a slugfest war. It looked like something out of the two MMA guys who have only learned how to throw right hands so far, getting in there and the bell rings.
Right.
And I love that. I thought there was some great physicality between them. I'm getting more and more into Luchasaurus every time I see him.
I think that's what was best booked in this, was they didn't overdo. Sometimes you can overdo the Luchasaurus stuff. They can either go for it too early, or again, if they're losing, it's a different sort of perspective you can take in the match and setup and that kind of thing. I definitely had a little bit of a different take early on. I enjoyed the Jungle Boy Jericho start because a little slower I think it made the Hager Luchasaurus things mean a little bit more. Once the two of them got in there, you knew Jungle Boy, had to sort of tag out because it was the bigger opponent. He was doing the smart thing at that point before they sort of were looking to get an advantage. And then you sort of got these two slugging out. I think if the match just opened with that, we would have had a lot of just dealing with the chaos post. And then, I feel like it really built to that a little bit. And then we got to see it later on because it was that sort of big push from Luchasaurus. And then the rest of the time, it was just the Inner Circle beating down Jungle Boy for most of the match.
Yeah, exactly. It was, set up Luchasaurus to get Jungle Boy back in to then get ready for the hot tag later on. Audrey was having some real glove problems, once Lucha started bleeding out of his ear. She couldn't get that one on. She must have taken it on and off 3 bloody times. That was just
I wasn't paying attention to her. I missed that, I guess.
That drew me out from the match. I'm like, Audrey, put the fucking glove on. Get on with it. Jesus.
Fair enough. I missed that. But Luchasaurus did get caught with something and his ear was bleeding.
It was early, too. It was one of the kicks in the corner that was early on with him and Hager. And it took commentary a while to catch up before they noticed it, too. So
those two got really, really physical early on. It was great.
That's fine. There was some Jericho is missing the gym. That's my thing I took from Jericho the most tonight, to be honest. Yeah. Looked a little like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man walking around there a couple times. In the spots where he'd roll over to stand up, he's literally rolling onto all fours. You can see his belly sagging down under him. Whoa, Chris, everybody else is finding weights. What are you doing?
Anyway. I thought he's looked thick since he came to AEW, really, hasn't he?
He hasn't looked in the best shape of his career, I'd say that. But
I think he's talked about it being intentional. He intentionally wanted to get bigger to go to Japan, and I guess if you're not going to get bigger mass-wise, sometimes that's just old age-wise. No, I think he's looking like a 49-year-old dude for sure. But he's in 100% better shape than me. I wouldn't give him any body shame here either. And maybe it's playing into the character too. Eventually, that he's just not maybe going to lose it a little, but I think for him, he's just trying to amass a little bit of different size. He's never been a very big guy. And in a place like this where there's, different varying in sizes, it puts him on the bigger end of the spectrum. If he was sort of the in shape kind of thing, he would have looked small against people like Hangman and Kenny. And you wouldn't necessarily be like, is he going to be because even compared to him and Moxley when they were Dean and Jericho in WWE, they're very different sizes, in my opinion. For sure.
That's true enough. I didn't like that he shoved Audrey and called her a bitch either, to be honest.
Fair enough. No, those two definitely get maybe a little too much into each other's faces sometimes, but
I love their interplay's great. They seem to have excellent chemistry, and I'm sure it's all totally professional and shit. So don't.
Absolutely. When you heard her on, she did the podcast, the Talk is Jericho, and he talked to really put her over how wasn't sure about it, didn't know her much at first, but now he specifically requests that she does all his matches. So there's a reason that she's out there for sure.
Yeah, no, they have great interplay. There were just it was just that typical kind of back and forth tag. There were, until we got to the hot tag spot with Luchasaurus, it was the two guys working over Jungle Boy.
Yeah, he would get
keeping him from tagging out, cutting the ring off. If it looked like he was making it over, they'd make the tag, and Hager would either cut off the ring or they'd knock him off the apron.
He would get stop him getting there. He'd get a hope spot here and there, but yeah, they would just try to work the advantage, the angry side of Jericho coming out for sure. They go for a big double suplex or whatever, and I think that was when he hit the double DDT, which got the biggest sort of like hope return for Jungle Boy to eventually tag in Luchasaurus, and then it was just the Luchasaurus kick train coming into the station there, where he just is really getting his timing down. He's getting comfortable with guys. He's able to they know when to save these spots and that kind of stuff. And in this match, it was certainly building to him being the big hero here. I enjoyed the sort of inclusions of Marco along the way too. Every time Santana and Ortiz would maybe get involved, kind of thing, he would find a way to sort of manipulate the situation too, until Jericho eventually just kind of took him right out of the situation.
Yeah, Luchasaurus had two really close near falls that got me hooked on the second one. To be honest, I thought he had it. So
yeah, for sure,
really well worked.
I find, I'm going to say, a little outside of this thing, I started timing matches because I'm always just curious, and I find it helps with the blow-by-blow sometimes to be what the timing is for things, and sometimes that can take me out of things a little bit, because when I got to this match, and I knew we had like 17, it was like 20 minutes left when 20 minutes started, and I was like, okay, this is going to be about a 17-minute match, and then there's going to be like a spot after, so I was like, as close as those hope spots are, and I'm always like, I wonder what it could be. I'm like, the Inner Circle are winning because something is happening at the end of further something. So I knew it wasn't just going to be a one big 20-minute match to have an end, which you usually have for like heroes winning or the good guys winning kind of thing. So, but not to put over those were really good close near falls for Luchasaurus.
Yeah. And I think we always, from the start of the match, you knew at some point we're getting some kind of interplay with Orange, because that the whole spot earlier with the Inner Circle, this is Jericho's thing right now, is with Cassidy. Yeah. So we knew at some point we were going to get that interplay. It was just a matter of how do we get there. And we got there when Serpentico interfered to allow Jericho to hit the code break and get the pin.
Yeah.
And then as the Inner Circle and Serpentico beat down on the Jurassic Express, the Best Friends at Orange Cassidy came out, and I guess Pentago helped. Well, they retreated at that point. Oh, he'd already unmasked, right? Yeah, unmasked.
I was going to say, you're jumping the gun here. The biggest part of this whole bit happened right before the Best Friends came out.
Well, because I wrote down Sammy's back with a question mark, because I assumed that was who Pentago was.
Oh, did your feed cut out, or?
No. I got to see it as well, but I wrote it down, my guess, and then when it happened, I got it in like 3 different places on the page. So,
no, if they were gonna, I guess like a surprise mask character. We've seen that kind of return before. A lot of people, I'm sure, sort of anticipating that it was Sammy once he got kind of in the ring. But man, I've seen Serpentico on Dark a few times. He's obviously a little bit smaller than Sammy, but again, very somewhat similar body size, and they did a very good job of actually having Serpentico out there earlier and having him in camera angles and in a close-up and stuff like that, so that when he jumped the railing, you're like, oh, is that just him, right? Like, so having him sort of as an outside image that eventually got involved, I think added a little bit to the mystery, so it didn't just instantly, you weren't just, oh, it's Sammy, let's just see it.
Yep.
He certainly wrestled a bit like Pentaco 2, doing his stance and stuff like that to sort of get it over, but I think once he hit that
the 450,
you knew who was underneath that mask.
Yeah, so Sammy pulled off, so he's back from his suspension, so the Inner Circle is complete and whole once more. The whole plot put back together.
That's right. They lay their beat down on the Jurassic Express, the 3 members, and then Orange Cassidy's music hits. He comes sauntering out, the nice slug walk as always. The Inner Circle are sort of standing strong, ready to take him on, thinking it's a sort of 5-on-1 situation, as the Best Friends kind of come running out behind him, and the 3 of them hit the ring. to assist the Jurassic Express here, and all this sort of setting up as everyone's sort of scrambling in the end there. Shivani screaming out that we're going to get a match between the entire Inner Circle taking on the Best Friends with the Jurassic Express next week. So that should be a lot of fun. Now, again, in the sort of cluster of it, I didn't get a full like remembering in my head now of what specific members are. I would assume it would be Best Friends and Orange with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. That would be the setup I would go for, but you could also do all three Jurassic Express with just the Best Friends with Orange on the outside. It depends on what way they choose to go. I think obviously Orange is more of the story than Marco. Marco is going to be the outside character, I would assume.
Yeah. That's my assumption would be the same. Although I guess there's an argument to be made for doing it the other way
to save
or
Orange
specifically
a little
the
bit.
Reasons of that. So
yeah,
but I would anticipate you're going to see the same tag pairing.
But in a 5-on-5, you're not going to waste too much Orange in the ring anyway. With Jericho, it won't be more the build, I would assume. So I don't think that's a waste either. But either way, I think that should be a fun little 5-man tag match next week.
And I mean, honestly, your main reason of having Marco around is to how far can someone throw him? What's the new creative thing we can do to nearly kill poor Marco this week? If he's at ringside or in the match, you can do a spot with him. So you're not lost either way, right? As long as he's there.
That's right.
So looking forward to next week already. Again, how often do you say that at the end of a Raw, eh?
Well, exactly. That's what I mean.
I can't wait for next Monday.
Yeah, as much as there was like some talk earlier on about the things maybe not happening fast enough, this is the stuff I enjoy. Everything sort of sets up each week. We didn't need to see immediately them giving Kenny a hard time for him beating up Marco last week. We could build to that. Like this week, we got to see what's happening with Hangman. And you're getting everyone gets their layers in, so that when you look at it from a story-wise point, you're like, man, that happened over X amount of months, and you really got to attached and drawn into the story and stuff like that. So that's what brings me back every week. So I'm happy to see a great card for Dynamite next week, and I'm excited to do the blow by blow, maybe by myself. I guess we'll blow that bubble now here. I'm still looking for a special guest, but
yeah, I'm on vacation next week, so it's going to be just McLeod by blowing it.
So it may just be me by myself next week, but we'll see what happens. Anyways, Chris, anything else to cover here for AEW Dynamite this week?
For Dynamite, I'm good. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about from wrestling in the last couple of days? Or we hit the NXT big announcement. I don't know anything else from that show.
No, I mean, either I'll catch the rest later. I was just kind of browsing a little bit earlier on.
I do know there were new tag team champions crowned on Impact Wrestling last night.
Yeah, I'm going to say we did touch on the Impact stuff. We don't want to completely ignore them. They did have not only the Motor City Machine Guns getting a big win there, taking on the North in their main event and becoming the new tag champions. They also were showing they had an appearance from EC3 on the actual episode, as well as vignettes with the eventual debuting Kurt Hawkins. So now he's Brian Myers, former Kurt Hawkins. But yeah, nice to see they're sort of elevating their reach to other talent. They didn't have to sort of debut everybody on Slammiversary because maybe everyone's going to be sort of positioned differently too. Should be fun to see what Impact has in store.
Yeah, no, going forward, I know it seems like a lot of people are excited about it right now, which is a word not used in association with Impact too often.
Honest. Yes, for sure. And I'd rather leave on a positive note than getting into all the terrible stuff that happened on Raw. So we'll save that for another time. Chris, let everyone know where they can hear this podcast.
You can listen to this podcast, catch it on Spotify or Sounder. And there's probably other places where podcasts are available you can download it from. Or you can listen to us live every Wednesday night on 88.7 The River FM in Ontario, Canada. Online, you can catch that at 887theriver.ca, starting at 7. Or you can check out the archives and listen to old ones.
That's right.
If you want to listen to what we think about things you watched a month ago.
Hey, you never know if you just want to hear more of our voices. I always forget to mention too. I try to leave a link in the description down below for catching the live feed if you're ever curious to check out the radio show here on YouTube. But yeah, like, share, and subscribe if you've checked this out. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back for another blow by blow.
You'll be back for a blow by blow.
Oh, I'll be back. We'll see what happens next week. I'll be doing a few little independent ones on my own, maybe some shorter ones. but we'll get the.
We'll do a special catch Chris up from what he missed from a whole week of vacation edition when I get home. How's that?
Perfect. It'll be a big double edition the next time you're back. Well, I'll look forward to that. And we'll be back next time. All right, Chris. See you then.
Take it easy, everyone. Thanks for watching.